Welcome to 100 Yards of Football this morning. I'm your host, Vincent Turner. And today we're not going to be previewing a prospect. We're going to be previewing a topic that's really going up social media. Joining me is a gentleman who's going to help me and explain to me why he has Trevor Lawrence not his top quarterback in the 2021 NFL draft. So if you like the video today, please come in and share it. We surely appreciate it here at 100 Yards of Football. So let me bring up my guest. He's been with us for the last month and a half, and he's done an outstanding job. He's coming live this morning from Key West, Florida. He has a book out. Let me put it up. Whatever It Takes is one of the best sellers on Amazon going on right now as we speak. He was a guy, as an NFL scout, worked under two of the best coaches that's ever done it, Bill Belichick and Bill Parcells with the New York Jets. He was one of the last candidates in 2017 in getting the Cleveland Browns job. He's also done some working with the Washington Redskins former GM Bruce Allen. He's done some work with Dick Haley, who's behind all them great Pittsburgh Steelers teams in the mid-'70s. He's worked with Tony Dungy, Scott Paloli, one of the top executives that's ever done it at the highest level. So he's coming to us, as I just mentioned, from Key West, Florida. My man, the very talented, in his book again, Whatever It Takes, Mr. Daniel Kelly. How you doing this morning, sir?
Hey, I'm doing really well, Mr. Turner. Thank you for having me on as always. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing fine this morning, man. I'm very excited this morning. Let me say this. I'm very blessed. I couldn't be more happier to have your talent on the show. Everything is going well with 100 Yards of Football as we speak. And all we do is talk football. But however, the world wants to know why you don't have Trevor Lawrence as your top-rated quarterback going into the 2021 NFL draft. So you have the floor, sir.
Well, it's because I watched the film. That's the main reason. I mean, I went back and watched every single throw that Trevor Lawrence made in this last 2020 season. And to me, the guy is raw. He's too raw. To me, he's a big, tall, unpolished, and not pro-ready quarterback who has an absolute cannon for an arm. I mean, this guy, I think his best and maybe only chances if he goes to an offense that's like the old Oakland Raiders with L. Davis, just a bombs away type of offense. That's where I think he has his best chance. Mr. Turner, to me, as an evaluator, as a scout, this guy is a perfect third or fourth round. Notice I didn't say third or fourth pick. I said third or fourth round guy that you take a gamble on because of his arm. Again, he has a cannon for an arm, and let him sit and develop for a couple of years behind the starting quarterback. This is a classic example, Mr. Turner, to our listeners, of a great college quarterback who's going to struggle in the NFL. And I understand the national narrative. I understand that, it's almost like the old game Simon Says, if you remember that, Mr. Turner. It's everyone says he's a great quarterback, and everyone says, repeat after me, he's going to be a great NFL quarterback, and everybody says it and believes it wholesale without question. Again, turn on the film. It's available on YouTube. Go back and watch every single throw he made in 2020 like I did, because there's about 5, 6, 7 different things I could point out over the next few minutes when we're together today that can clearly demonstrate and illustrate that this guy is not the number one pick in the NFL draft. It's as clear as day. Let me start, Mr. Turner, by saying a few things. Number one, the first issue I have with him, if I'm sitting in a war room with a room full of scouts, is he operated exclusively out of the shotgun formation at Clemson. This is going to be an issue if any team takes him and wants to play him traditionally under center. He does not have that type of experience. He plays exclusively out of shotgun. Number two, he has happy feet. Do you know what I mean when I say happy feet, Mr. Turner?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. He bounces around. He bounces around the pocket. He does not set his feet. He looks a little bit nervous. He bounces around. He has a hard time setting his feet. And what we're talking about is we're talking about mechanics of the quarterbacking position. Number three, he has a big, long arms. He has a very elongated throwing motion. Number four, he has a tendency. See, you can get away with some stuff in college that you cannot get away with in the National Football League. And the thing I'm talking about is if you watch him and you watch his head and you watch his eyes when he drops back, he has a tendency to lock in with his first option, his first throwing option. You're not seeing someone whose head is like turning, looking around. You're not seeing this on film where he's going through progressions to find the receiver he's going to throw it to. That's a problem when you lock in with your first option as an NFL quarterback. Another thing, and this is really the big one, is his inability and inexperience to throw timing routes. I often, I watched him wait until the wide receivers were either coming open or they were standing there waiting for the ball. If you do that in the National Football League, you're going to make SportsCenter, but not for the right reasons. It's going to be a pick six going back the other way. I believe that his lack of ability and experience in throwing timing routes is also further exposed by the fact he uses play action fakes and pump fakes on almost every single throw that he makes. Now, this is a way that he has tried to manipulate defenses at the college level and what the pump fakes and what the play actions do is they temporarily and momentarily will freeze a defense to give him route leverage and give him an advantage downfield because it holds the defense for a split second, giving him that opening. And I have to mention something, Mr. Turner, to our listeners. His play action fake is not even that good. It's not that convincing. In fact, it's almost like a wasted motion. Almost every single throw, he has to do the play action fake to hold the defenses. That's another huge issue. I think that overall, the timing, because let me explain something to our listeners in the NFL when it comes to quarterbacks, is you have to be able to throw timing routes. In other words, you have to be able to release the ball before the receiver makes his break, before the receiver gets open in the NFL. That's the only way you're going to be able to beat NFL cornerbacks, especially the good ones, and for sure the great ones. Because if you wait to throw the ball until your receiver is coming, like looking back at you. I mean, this isn't high school. This isn't grade school where they just stand there and say, hey, throw it here, throw it here. You cannot do that because the cornerbacks are going to pick the ball. It's going to be a pick six, and they're going back for a touchdown the other way. Also I factor in a number of different other factors when I look at Trevor Lawrence going into a situation. Let's say the national narrative wins out. He goes number one overall. Let's just say that hypothetically for the sake of conversation. Number one, he'll walk into a situation and potentially in Jacksonville, there'll be sky-high expectations. That's the first problem. He also needs a star-studded a running back. He had ETN in Clemson, but if he doesn't have that kind of power running game, his play-action motion is almost going to be a wasted motion because no one's going to honor the running game unless they have a great running back. I mean, they're going to stack they're just going to play back and they're going to play the pass coverage. Another thing is he's going to have a whole new cast of characters he's going to be dealing with. He's not going to be dealing with the Clemson guys he worked with. He might have a shoddy offensive line that's going to break down in front of him. He's going to have new receivers. I mean, the guy has a problem throwing timing routes to begin with. Imagine what he's going to be like with a brand new set of wide receivers in the NFL. He also may have a possible entitlement issue that I would have to sit down with him and talk to him about. The entitlement issue is something that's caused, I mean, let's face it, 53% of first-round draft choices historically in the National Football League are bust. Why are they bust, Mr. Turner and our listeners? Well, they're bust because they have a high sense of entitlement. In other words, they're not open to learn and open to develop. And that could be something that could be a huge problem too, coming as a number one draft pick. He also, he likes to run, and the guy shows hardly any ability or desire to slide. He just likes to run. And that's fine when you're playing at the college level, but the NFL guys are going to hit a lot harder harder, and they're going to hit the basically, he could get injured. That's another huge issue. He doesn't know how to slide. Plus you look at the fact he's coming off a recent shoulder surgery, and also there's a picture floating around on the internet. This is something that a lot of fans don't know about, and people around the league do. But teams do extensive background research on guys, and you want to make sure your social media is very clean, because teams and scouts will comb through the social media. They're going to look through what you have on there. There is a picture floating around the internet with Trevor Lawrence holding a handgun. I don't know what the specifics are, but I can guarantee you that teams are going to be investing tens of millions of dollars in this guy, are going to look into, what does that mean, especially when we have a background with guys who have criminal activity in the NFL. And I'm not suggesting that Trevor Lawrence has that type of propensity, but I want to know why there's a picture floating around the internet with him holding a handgun as well. There's just a number of factors, a number of issues. Again, I think the guy's got a cannon for an arm. When you watch him, there's definitely a lot to like. You can tell that he's been coached by a quarterback's coach from a time he could basically walk. He definitely can do everything you want to do pre-snap, and he can do everything you want to do in the pocket. But the problem becomes when he he drops back and looks down the field, because most of his most effective throwing range is either short or it's going to be deep. But the problem is the intermediate routes are going to be a problem, especially the timing routes. And if you cannot throw timing routes in the NFL, you're going to be a bust, and you're not going to make it in the National Football League, Mr. Turner.
I'm kind of lost for words. I didn't know, and you said something on social media right now with him holding a gun.
Yes, you can. If you go Trevor Lawrence handgun, the picture's all over the place.
I didn't realize that as we going to shooting this morning. You brought up some good points, Mr. Daniel, and by no means I'm not going to really go against you, because you've been a scout at a high level. I haven't been in a war room. I haven't been around these great people, and I know you personally, and you're a guy that does a lot of hard work. You 24/7. That's your nickname, I call it. But at the end of the day, look where I'm coming from with my perspective. I'm just coming from a perspective of maybe a fan, a guy that's been loving this game ever since I've been in this world. I'm 60 years old. So when I look at Trevor Lawrence, and this is just me personally, I'm not going by the skill level or what we call dissecting everything, him working in the pocket. I'm just going from him as a player and as a man. Now, when I look at Trevor Lawrence, I look at him as an athlete that's been chosen from day one, coming to the college campus with a lot of pressure. And it's only a few athletes that's really lived up to their expectations. So I'm going to put him in the realms of a young man that came out of Louisville, Kentucky in 1964. They had a great boxing career by the name of Muhammad Ali. He was known as Cassius Clay. Then I'm going to go with another young man that I saw play at 12 years old, that from Columbia, Mississippi, played with Jackson State by the name of Walter Payton. I said, he's going to be a player at the next level. Then there was a young man on the basketball side back in 1965 that made, I think it was the high school player of the year. He'd appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show. His name was Lou Alcindor, and he ended up being Kareem Abdul-Jabbar before he even got out of high school. We know how his career ended. Then the young man from Akron, Ohio, from day one, when he came out of high school and was the number one pick in the NBA, the expectations were high, and he succeeded that. Now I'm going to get back to Trevor Lawrence. I saw this young man play in high school when he was 15 years old as a 10th grader at one of the most powerful high schools in Cartersville, Georgia, that's produced Robert Levette that went to Georgia Tech, that has produced Ronnie Brown, first-round pick with the Miami Dolphins, that produced Andre Fruellen, former Florida State fourth-round pick, who all of them played at a high level in the National Football League. He came out of high school that was a powerhouse, and they beat a real tough Bruford team that day. And when I was looking at that young man, he was like 6'4", maybe 140 pounds. But one thing I loved about him that I never seen with an athlete up close and personal, we talking about a 15-year-old, the poise and the maturity of leading his team against a very tough Bruford team. And this guy, 15 years old, I was sitting in the stands, I said, this guy gonna be the next chosen one. And to make a long story short, I didn't come to see him play. I came to see somebody else play, a running back named Kristen Turner, who eventually signed with Michigan. But to say all that, when I look at Trevor Lawrence, from that moment, as him being a 15-year-old, everything he's done has been a microscope. And I'm going to go what Paul Brown said, the great coach from the Cleveland Browns. We could talk about all the characteristics of him not being a player or him having these flaws. I could talk about how great he throws the fade, the ball coming off his hands like a cannon. But at the end of the day, Paul Brown, and all I know, Paul Brown's got a lot of credit now. When you look at the NFL, you look at college ball, look at high school ball, because Paul Brown won a high school championship in Mason. He won a national championship at Ohio State. And he won, I believe, 5 to 6 championships with the Cleveland Browns, and he had a guy named Otto Graham under center. Well, what Mr. Paul Brown says, Mr. Kelly, and you know I love you this morning, it's all about winning.
Yes, sir.
It's all about winning.
Bottom line.
The man is 96-4. He's only lost 4 games in his career. 4 games. Now, I'm gonna take you down memory lane. He came out of high school. He won back-to-back state championships in one of the most toughest states to win in high school football. Georgia, outside California, outside Texas, and outside Florida. It's real down here playing football in the state of Georgia. Okay, he goes to Clemson. Now, this is where I'm looking at. All eyes on him. There's a senior in front of him by Kelly Bryant, who had took Clemson to the national semifinals. But what he did, he beat that veteran quarterback out. And at mid-season, everybody was looking at Dabo Swinney. You're going to ride with this young man who's only 18 years old? And I'm watching with the whole nation, including yourself. What happens? He leads into an undefeated season. But you know how I do it here at 100 Yards of Football. I don't really care about all the measurables. I want to know how you play in big-time games when the lights on. And you know where I'm coming from, Daniel. Mm-hmm. Notre Dame, as an 18-year-old freshman, 3 touchdowns, 327 yards. But this is what really set me apart and why this young man is a sure thing and the chosen one. He goes up against Alabama. All week leading up to that game, everybody's talking about Tua. Alabama's rolling, got the number 1 offense in the country. Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, Josh Jacobs, Najee Harris. On defense, Xavier McKinley, Dalen Moses, Patrick Surtain, other corner, Trayvon Diggs, and Quentin Williams. If I'm a man and I'm sitting here right now, all those guys I mentioned, half of them were first-round picks. But what does this young man do from Cartersville, Georgia, the chosen one, the number 1 player in the country, on the national stage? Well, he throws for 337 yards. He outperforms Tua. And now the world is saying, hey, this guy, based on what he's done his freshman year, could be the number 1 pick in that year's draft. My whole point of the issue is this. I understand where you're coming from, but I just mentioned the bottom line of this is winning. The guy's played in 5 playoff games in college. He's made the college playoff series all 3 years he's there. And even more, what's amazing, his final year at Clemson, he had 4 new offensive linemen, and he lost his leading receiver, T. Higgins, who, with the Cincinnati Bengals, put up 930 receiving yards, 67 receptions, and 8 touchdowns. Yes, he had Travis Etienne. Yes, he might have spoken the play action, but he had 4 new starting offensive linemen. And when you look at all the greatness, I would put money on it. Everything I have in the bank account, that this young man, to me, will be the sure thing as one guy who came out of Akron, Ohio by the name of LeBron James. The bottom line, we could talk all we want. The guy won at the highest level. He didn't play in Division II. He didn't play in Division III. He played at the highest level. And when the lights was on, I'm going to go back, 96-4. He's only lost 4 games, man. He has a national championship. And when you look at all the greats, like I said, Paul Brown, the former coach, the legendary, we put him in the same category as Parcells and Belichick. He said, we could talk about all the quarterbacks. We could talk about all the emotions. We could talk about, hey, these flaws they had, but it's all about winning. And when you look at Trevor Lawrence, I see him in the mind, in the eyes of an Otto Graham, Northwestern's finest. The great Bobby Lane, who didn't even throw the football good. He won the championship. Norm Van Brocklin and Bob Waterfield. Oh my God, winning. Joe Namath, winning. Bart Starr, winning. And you're talking about maturity. What more can you say? I didn't know it was him going on the social media, him holding the gun. But before then, I'm looking at his resume. He graduated in 3 years. 2-time All-ACC academic. Then the face of Clemson, doing all these rough times doing cover. He even came up with cover and still got out in front and really was a man of social issues and represented Clemson at the highest level. And let me throw in this another tidbit. He also had a 69 completion rate this season. Everything the young man has done, to me, is no flaws. I'm just being honest. He is the sure thing that I've seen at a quarterback position that's come into the National Football League. I'm talking about John Elway, Andrew Luck, and he reminds me of a young man I saw play at 8 years old. They used to come to Memphis, Tennessee every year and beat the stuffing out of Memphis State. And he led an upset over the number 2 team in the country, Tennessee, 38-0. His sons ended up being pretty good players. He did go to a bad team, and his pro career didn't work out, but he was from Drew, Mississippi, 15 miles from where my mother grew up in Sunflower. The great Archie Manning. This young man, Trevor Lawrence, he's got it, man. And no matter what, in my opinion, by no means, you know I love you today. And I know you're going to rebuttal. And me and you have had serious discussions about other prospects. And Daniel, you have done it at a high level. Don't get me wrong. You're very talented.
Thank you.
As a scout, I can't go where you go. But I'm just speaking on emotion, how I love the game. I've seen some great players play this game. I mean, from Elway to Steve Broadkowski, there was a no miss. Kenny Stabler winning a Super Bowl and the national championship. When you look at all those guys, this young man, I really would be really shocked at him not really being successful at a high level in the National Football League. It's all about winning. I don't have to say no more. The guy went 96-4. The guy went to a program and he was following a guy right now by the name of Deshaun Watson from Gainesville, Georgia. And he's now the buzz of the National Football League, where he's going to sign, whether Houston's going to trade him or not. He followed that and won a championship as a true freshman. And we could talk about, and you know, I'm just going on how we do it, me and you. We could talk about what he done, his flaws. I can argue with you all day about him making the back shoulder throw, him not having a running game. But I'm going to go by what the great Paul Brown says. It's all about winning. The great ones win. And when you look at that young man that came out of Michigan in the 2000 draft, the 6th round pick, he's got 7 rings. It's all about winning. That's why right now we consider him the GOAT of the National Football League. Trevor Lawrence, to me, is going to go to Jacksonville this first year, and I wouldn't be surprised if he had them in contention. You have the floor, sir.
That's a hard act to follow, Mr. Turner, and you know that I love you. You know that I love you. Yeah, and that's the most compelling argument I've ever heard you make on 100 yards of football. And to your point, I can't come against anything that you're saying because you're pointing out the positives. But let me make one thing clear. I'm going to be using this video as my resume and to become a general manager in the NFL, because I'm going to show this video to NFL owners, because I have one voice against a nation who's saying that this guy is everything you say is going to be. So let me go back for a moment. I'm listening intently to what you're saying. I don't disagree with anything you're saying. And also my scouting report is on Draft Diamonds, Trevor Lawrence, Daniel Kelly. If you Google it, and you can go through the finer points. Yes, he does have the size. Yes, he does have the poise that you talked about, Mr. Turner. He does have the maturity. He does have the arm. He has won the 96-4. He can throw a great fade route in the end zone. I agree with all those points that you made. Everything you saw, all the people you're comparing him to, all the greatness in the past, the winning. Yes, the bottom line in the National Football League is winning. But here's the thing. Now I'll go back to my closing argument. I feel like we're in a courtroom. And here's my closing argument. Again, I love you, and I think the world of you. Absolutely. I'll bring it. Clemson Nation, turn up the volume. Turn up the volume right now. Everybody who loves Trevor Lawrence, I want you to turn up your volume right now, because I'm going to lay it on thick. I'm going to lay my reputation on the line. So let's hear this out, okay? Okay, this guy, Trevor Lawrence, read my lips, is not a number one pick in the National Football League draft. He's not a plug-in, play, and ready quarterback. He's not microwavable. He's not going to come in there and be ready to play right off the bat. Again, there's going to be a prolonged, hear my voice, a prolonged adjustment period for this guy coming into the NFL. Why? Because he's coming into a rebuilding team. Why? Because he's coming into the worst team in the National Football League to be selected by Jacksonville according to the 2020 record. Why? He's going to have a brand new system. Why? He's going to have brand new teammates. Why? Is because he's going to go against, this is not college. Dorothy, we're not in Kansas anymore. This isn't college game. We're not playing against college defensive backs. We're not playing against college defensive coordinators. He's going to play against a much faster and a much more complex NFL systems that he's ever seen before. These guys mix up and make exotic different coverages pre-snap. If he's not going to be able to sit back and know where he's going to go with the ball before the ball is snapped in the National Football League, these guys are going to have exotic like blitzes. They're going to show man, then they're going to drop zone. They're going to show zone, dropping the man. They may play a variation of man and zone at the exact same time. This is going to be a real problem. Again, there's going to be a prolonged adjustment period for Trevor Lawrence coming to the National Football League. As an NFL general manager, I would never, 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 say it with me. Come on, Clemson Nation. Say it with me. I would never draft this guy as the number one drafted pick in the entire draft. I wouldn't even have him on my draft board, period. I don't want him on my team, period. He's not Deshaun Watson. It's not even the same conversation. It's like speaking two different languages to compare him to Deshaun Watson. This guy, I mean, he may very well be, it may be a 2-year period. I would sit him for at least 2 years and have him learn. And listen, my story, whatever it takes, is a story of a true story of a fan making the NFL. Okay, I'm not a defensive coordinator, and I know a lot of people out there like to play fantasy football. So let me give it a shot. Let me pretend to be a defensive coordinator for a minute, and I'm going to tell everybody turn up the volume. I want every defensive coordinator in the NFL to turn up the volume just a tad, because here's the thing. This is how you're going to beat Trevor Lawrence in the National Football League. Number one, you blitz him. You make him very uncomfortable. You send a combination of blitzes the whole entire game. Number two, you play tight man coverage and make him throw those timing routes. Make him beat you with the timing routes. And really, you take away the deep passing game. That's what he loves. That's what he's made his living off of at Clemson, is the deep passing game. You take your safeties, drop them into the deep halves, have help over the top with your corners, and that's what he's going to want to do. Do not honor the play action fake. It's really not that good to begin with. Don't let him freeze your defense with a play action. Don't let his little pump fake he's been learning from the time he's a kid fool you. He's going to try to go deep with the ball. And now, don't get me wrong. He can throw a pretty long ball. He has a cannon. So hear me out. I'm not saying he doesn't have a strong arm, because he does. He has a cannon. But at the end of the day, it's going to amount to nothing more than a 50-50 jump ball. He does not have Randy Moss like Dante Culpepper did, who can, throw it up there and jump and go get it. This guy, that's the way you're going to beat Trevor Lawrence in the National Football League. Read my lips. Trevor Lawrence is going to be a bust. There's a very high probability, Clemson Nation, and to the NFL fans out there, in all the fantasy, don't draft him in your fantasy draft. He's not going to play that well as a rookie. There's a very high probability he's going to be a bust, and I expect this video to go viral, and I especially expect it to go viral once the guy comes out and doesn't do the things that everyone thinks he's going to do, and he does exactly everything I've said on this video today. I'm telling you, don't pick him at number one. Don't pick him, because he's not even the quarterback Mac Jones is. Don't do it. Mac Jones is dramatically better. Dramatically better. Justin Fields is dramatically more pro ready. Don't do it. NFL teams love Daniel Kelly.
Well, Mr. Kelly, I hope that really after this video, after we posted that, maybe that you be in a soft area, a soft spot in Key West, Florida, because I would hate for any Clemson fans to come down to that beautiful island that you own, which is 60 miles from Cuba, and really be in front of you and ask you, do you want to back them words up? But at the end of the day,
not only do I not want to back down, I'll walk right into Clemson's field and I'll say this with a microphone. I'll come to their house and say this stuff. They don't need to come to my house. I'll come to their house and say this stuff. You're talking to a guy who has stood in stadiums in front of the opposing team with the opposing gear on back when I was watching the Redskins and going to Redskins games. I walk in the Giants stadium dressed from head to toe at Redskins. Bring it on. Absolutely. Come on down. The weather's beautiful in Key West. You get yourself a little island drink with an umbrella in it, and we can sit and we can talk about Trevor Lawrence. And I'll even do one better than that. I'll invite anybody from the Clemson Nation down that we can watch the film together. We can maybe catch a little bite on the beach. We can have a little something, a little drink with an umbrella, like I said, in it, and we can watch the tape together, because guess what? Film does not lie. Politics lie. Money lies. The national narrative is the guy is this, that, and a bag of potato chips. But yeah, come on down. You don't have to make it that hard. Just tell me what flight you're on. We'll go ahead and, you can find me. I'm all over the internet. I'm all over the world. It's very easy to find me on social media at Daniel Kelly Book. You can find me on my Facebook page, whatever it takes, NFL Talks. I'm not like I'm hiding. I'm not in the witness protection program, Mr. Turner, with these with my evaluations. You're talking to a guy that will go head to head against anybody, and I'll speak what I see and what I'm showing, because that's the job of a scout. And believe me, I didn't come on here half-cocked with these type of things that I'm saying. I study the film. I study the film for as much time as people work during a work week. I watch a play 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. I watch the throwing motion. I study the tape. I study every detail. I have a notebook full of notes. I'm not just saying some stuff so I can get attention or people can notice me. I don't need to be noticed. I'm all over the world. My name, Daniel Kelly, appears in every publication in America, every national publication. I'm all over the place. I've been interviewed by Linda Cohn. I've been interviewed on ESPN Radio. I'm all over the place. I don't need to try to get attention. I have enough attention. Trust me, I have enough attention. So this is not an attention move or, hey, this guy's going to come on here and say just the opposite of what everyone else is saying just so he can get attention. Trust me, that's not what I'm doing. And the thing that gets me the most, Mr. Turner, as we talk about NFL experts and all these people that say Trevor Lawrence is this, that, and a bag of potato chips, most of these quote unquote NFL experts haven't spent 10 minutes inside an NFL building in their life, let alone 4 years. These people are just saying these things to go along, to get along. Trevor Lawrence is not number one pick. Dear Shad Khan, please don't do it. I'm imploring you not to do this one. The same way as in 2017 when I was in contact with Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Cleveland Browns, and I wrote him a letter and I begged him not to trade for Kirk Cousins, who everybody also thought was a golden boy, Mr. $84 million or whatever he's getting up in Minnesota, Mr. Choke every time the season or a game is on the line. I implored Mr. Haslam not to sign Kirk Cousins, and thankfully he didn't, and Minnesota did. And guess what? Minnesota's finding out exactly what I wrote in that letter, that he's not a championship quarterback. The same way as I'm imploring Mr. Shad Khan, please don't do this one because it's going to set your organization back. Do not draft Trevor Lawrence until you sit down. Now, that's the beauty of scouting. Okay, if we're sitting in a war room right now, the things I'm saying, I'm going to have about 9, 10, 12, 20 scouts at my throat. But the thing of it is I want to turn on the tape. And if I'm wrong, show me I'm wrong. Don't tell me I'm wrong. Don't just say, oh, he's wrong. He's a fool. He's ignorant. He's that. No, let's grow past third grade and let's put on the tape and let's actually watch and see if he can do these things. Show me he can do the timing routes. Show me, because Dan Orlovsky on NFL Live, if you Google him, he says the same thing. And he was a quarterback in the NFL. He says the exact same thing. He has the same criticism of Trevor Lawrence I'm trying to illustrate on this show. And so it's not just me. I'm not just seeing things that nobody else sees. I'm seeing what the film shows. So again, dear Shad Khan, owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, dear sir, please turn on the film and watch, and don't take the advice of the people that are talking to you about this young man. Please sit down with your staff and watch the film. Unless you're going to have an offense that's going to have 4 or 5 receivers around a 4.2 40 that can go deep into the end zone on every single play, it just bombs away. Don't do it, because this guy is not going to make it in the National Football League throwing timing routes.
Well, as you know, I love you, man. You're coming from the beautiful island of Key West, Florida. There's really nothing I can say because you're a scout, man. And you've been places that I have never been in my life. And granted, you're a very talented individual. And since I've known you, have hits on some players as we talk about the history of the draft. But my final words, I'm just speaking from a guy that watches the game, a guy that's loved the game all my 60 years. All I know is I think this young man is the next LeBron James in the National Football League. And I'm going to go by this. My parents right now live in Memphis, Tennessee. They stay on the beautiful street of 1248 Singletrees, which is around the corner from a gentleman who rocked the world in the 1950s and became the greatest entertainer outside Michael Jackson and died on my 17th birthday in August of 1977. And still today, there's millions of people that flock to his house, to his businesses out there. And he's from Tupelo, Mississippi, by the name of Elvis Presley. So when I think of Trevor Lawrence, I think of Elvis Presley. And Elvis had a song, ain't nothing but a hound dog. Hound dog. Trevor Lawrence is going to be a hound dog at the next level. And I hope, Mr. Kelly, and I love you to death, you said some strong words today. And you rocked the world. I hope that this doesn't come back to bite you. Thank you this morning for watching 100 Yards of Football, and to the very talented Daniel Kelly, the man of whatever it takes, one of the greatest books right now, Amazon. I'm your host, Vincent Turner. Please, we thank you. We love you for supporting 100 Yards of Football. And to my great staff that's done a great job over the last month, I'm going to start with our producer this morning, Mr. Logan Landers out of Douglasville, Georgia. Mr. Jeremiah Long out of Oak Ridge, Tennessee. My man Kevin the Bull Jones out of Atlanta, Georgia. My man Brian Spencer out of Atlanta, Georgia. The legend from the 305, 12-year vet, two-time All-American, Mr. Bobby Butler. And also to my business partner from Brooklyn, New York, my man Ronnie Keebler. It's been a fabulous morning this morning here on 100 Yards of Football. We want to say thank you and have a very blessed day.
I'm just trying to figure out how to spend your life savings after you made that bet. It's your show, but I got to say that at the end. So, hey, thank you for watching. God bless you.